Hello and welcome to the Age of Empires 2 Academy. In this series, I take a look at the recorded games that you send in to me, and I give you suggestions and helpful advice on how you can improve based on the mistakes that you make in those games. One of the best ways that we can improve at playing Age of Empires 2 is looking over our past recorded games and seeing where we went wrong. But oftentimes it's hard for low-level players to analyze those games and actually understand where the mistakes are made. So in this series, I try and point out those mistakes, but give helpful advice on how to improve for next time around and help to avoid making those mistakes in the future. Today's recorded game was sent in by Alexander, and here he's playing on Arena. He's playing in the purple, and his username is Default. How original, fantastic. He's playing as the Celts down to the south of the map here. His opponent is, in the blue, King Uric the Visigoth, and he is the AI. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with playing against the AI in Age of Empires 2. It's where most players start, let's be honest. Most players will play the campaigns, they'll play some AI games in skirmish mode, and they'll have a good time. Now, the AI in the Age of Empires 2 HD edition is vastly improved. It's actually very strong compared to the original Conquerors AI, and it actually gives a very good challenge to new players to the game. So, Alexander here playing against the AI is actually a very good way to start improving and getting better at the game before you make that jump to playing in multiplayer. So kudos to him for doing that, because a lot of players will jump straight into multiplayer and then they'll get pretty disheartened when they have a pretty hard time at the 1600 level. Now, the AI has been created by Promi. He's an AI scripter, and I actually had the pleasure of playing against Promi at a LAN event in Prague not too long back, sitting across the table from me, playing some team games together, which was really cool, and yeah, it's just a really awesome thing. So anyway, we're going to be looking at what is going on here and where Alexander could perhaps improve and what he did right as well, because although it's good to analyze our mistakes, it's good to look and acknowledge at what we've done correctly as well. And so far, things look pretty good. He's sent 6 villagers out to sheep. He's taking 1 sheep at a time underneath the TC, and this is a very solid start. He's got 3 villagers out on wood on the right-hand side, and he's not got housed yet either, moving now to take his first boar. So things here not looking too bad at all. And one of the biggest problems I see with lower rated players or new players to the game is not really understanding or knowing a build order. And having a build order is especially useful when you want to achieve a specific thing. And in this situation, on Arena, the best build order to go for, and most people should know this, is a fast castle. You can't really do much damage in the feudal age, so it's much better to get yourself to the castle age, work on your economy, and sit safely behind these walls. Now, whilst a build order can be very useful, it's not necessary to follow it to the letter. You can deviate from the build order a little bit, depending on your situation. And normally, the fast castle build order will perhaps have you build the mill first and take the berries, and then start taking the boar. But it doesn't matter too much. The general principle is there. He's taking his boar right now, and things are not looking too bad for him at all, actually. He's even dropping off resources here to keep these villagers coming out from the TC. So let's take a quick look at his scouting and see what's going on. He's currently, I believe, found all of his sheep. He has got 4 sheep remaining, and he's also got a deer patch right here next to his mill. Although I am wondering where these villagers are off to. They're coming out to the right-hand side. What are they doing? Are they going to take some deer? Or, okay, no, I see what he's doing. He's pushing those deer towards his mill with these villagers. And actually, that's not a terrible idea at all. I mean, it's much more preferable, really, to push deer towards your mill or to your TC with the scout cavalry. But doing this, I guess, is fine at this level. I mean, this is a low-level player here, but look at this. Pushing the deer in is actually pretty wise, and he will manage to push those deer a little closer to the mill there. Now, on Arena, you can afford the time to push your deer with your scout cavalry. It's fairly easy to do. All you do is simply select your scout and keep attacking, or not really attacking, you can't attack the deer, but keep right clicking on the deer and it will go in the direction you're pushing it. In this situation, he wasted a little bit of villager time because those 3 villagers could have been gathering, berries or sheep in that time. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit messy as far as I can see. He has got a sheep on this right side, and maybe he forgot about this, but he's got to put his other sheep up to the north side here. And really, you kind of want to be taking your sheep underneath the town center. The TC is the best place, really, to take your food and such, because your villagers don't have to walk. They simply just sit under the TC, they take their food, then they drop it off immediately, and then continue resuming gathering resources. So it's not preferable to take sheep underneath the mill. And at this point, he sent a lot of villagers out to take the berries. He's got his villagers taking the deer, but it's really important to take the deer on arena. So taking the deer here is a good thing. Sadly, he did get a little bit housed, and obviously, that's something that everybody can improve on. Expert players get housed. I get housed all the damn time. So getting housed is fine, but you've got to be able to try and keep on top of that as best you can, and that's something that I think everyone struggles with. But one of the problems here that Alexander has been faced with is one little problem. He's not found his second boar. Now, you can see if you look around the map, he's not seen that second boar anywhere. Now, you will always, always, always have a second boar, so he should probably look to try and scout that out. Now, sadly, here on the left side, he'll lose that villager. Not a lot he could have done there without loom, but if you are leaving your walls, it's preferable to have loom, because you never know where those pesky wolves may be. They may kill your villagers at a moment's notice. But yes, scouting is really, really important, and he's not really scouted the back of his map that well. He has done a little bit of scouting back here, but he's just come out this left side. He's not really looked around, and the boar isn't actually here. The boar is way back behind his wall, and it's kind of understandable. Kind of unlucky perhaps that he didn't quite see that, because it's just one tile away from the line of sight of the wall there. But you have to be able to adapt, and players in professional games sometimes have their boars stolen from them, and in that situation you have to be able to adapt, and the way you adapt is by making some farms. And what Alexander here is not doing is seeding farms. Now, in the fast castle build order, you generally want to have 6 farms up, and your first farms want to be coming down soon after you've taken your first boar with the weakened villager that your villagers weakened from taking the boar. That is the villager that wants to start building farms, and you should be building farms from quite an early point in the game when you're doing a fast castle build order. And if you've not found your second boar, you're almost certainly going to be needing to build farms. So one thing that Alexander's here is not doing is building farms, and that is probably a pretty big problem. One thing as well is that with those farms, he could have been spending a little bit of this wood. He has got a huge amount of wood building up inside of that bank, and when you see that much wood in the Dark Age, you're thinking to yourself, why have I got this much wood? I should probably build some farms. And that's exactly what he should be doing. Now, at this point, he's had a little bit of idle time on this area over here. What actually happened is he set his gather point to a tree, and then the tree has been cut, so the villager's not actually going to the gather point to chop trees. He's going to stand there and not do anything. But with a quick, if you realize there's a group of idle villagers somewhere, they're all standing around idle and looking a little messy, then you should probably check the gather point from your TC, because in this situation they're just being told to go and stand by the tree line. But obviously clicking that idle villager hotkey will take you to your idle vills wherever they may be. And one thing I would suggest to all players out there, try and hit that idle villager hotkey as often as you can. And it seems like Alexander here is doing that. He's fixing his idols as we speak. But still, there are no farms, and I think this is one of the biggest mistakes he's made so far. Now, he has split his lumber, which is a good thing. You want to have 2 lumber camps, because having too many villagers on one lumber camp will cause a lot of idle time, a lot of walking time. And that is not too good. You kind of want them split over 2 lumber camps once you have more than 8 lumberjacks, for instance. But yeah, like I say, those farms are really going to be necessary, because what he's doing here is a fast castle build order. That's what he should be aiming to do. And I kind of think to myself, if he'd have found that second boar, he may have been successful in pulling this one off. And there's the boar there. It's actually in the line of sight now, just going in and out that line of sight, which is kind of a shame he didn't notice. But yeah, he's finally moving out to take some farms or build some farms up. But really, at this stage, He's not had any confrontation with his enemy. The biggest problem here is simply economy management and making sure you have a balanced economy. Clearly in this situation, the economy is not balanced. There's too much wood income. And although, yes, you do need plenty of wood in order to build your 2 feudal age buildings to go up to the castle age, 600 wood here is a little bit too much. And I think he's realized here now that, yeah, he should probably throw some farms down. And he's doing just that, but still 6 farms would have been the ideal amount. He's gone for 5, and for that reason I think he's going to have a hard time getting to the 800 food and 200 gold that he needs to go to the castle age. So in this situation, you know, a build order, although it would be very helpful for Alexander, the problem is he can't stick to that build order because the boar wasn't there. So you have to be able to adapt, and that is something that obviously will come with time. But what you have to think is, okay, so I'm missing a boar, I need to get some more food from somewhere. And sure, he took his deer, he put a lot of villagers onto berries, but those farms, that was the real key in this situation. Get those farms up sooner and get those villagers getting the food in a lot faster. So right now his TC will sit idle for a minute, although he will queue more vills, and this is something that could be a real problem. When you're struggling to get the food you need to go to the next stage, if you keep making villagers, you're actually never going to reach that 800 food until you see either a ton of farms or you stop making villagers. And, you know, it's never ideal to stop building villagers from the town center, but sometimes in order to get that fast castle, it might be necessary. And in this situation, I think he might leave his TC idle here. Obviously, this situation should never really arise in the first place. Now, what I would suggest at this point, you know, he's built this blacksmith, he's built his market, so he clearly knows what he needs to do for the fast castle. But what he's got is a little, again, imbalanced economy. He realizes he needs more food, he's thrown down a bunch of farms. But what he actually has at this point is 630 gold. He's got a lot of gold, and he's going to use his market to buy some food. And I would have suggested that myself. I would say, you know, if you've got a little bit of an imbalanced economy, if your economy is, you know, not quite as balanced as you would like, if you've got too much gold, not enough food to go to the castle age, there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying a little bit of that food from the market. The market can be a fantastic way to just, you know, redistribute your resources and get things level and stable whilst you fix your economy. Now, one thing that Alexander did do here, he did sell some stone in order to get more gold to buy more food with. And I don't think he needed to do that. I think he could have just bought the food and maybe sold a little bit of wood. Now, you have to remember here that, you know, stone is going to be really valuable to you because when you get to the castle age, you're going to want to put down that 2nd and that 3rd TC to work on your boom. And right now, since Alexander has sold 200 stone, he actually doesn't have 200 stone for that 2nd and 3rd TC. He's got plenty of wood, however, so I guess, you know, he could use his market once again, sell a little bit of wood, use the gold he's gathering to buy a little bit of stone back. It's not ideal, but it will do for the time being, and it's really important, of course, to get that 2nd and 3rd TC. Work on building up your economy as best you can. But I think, you know, balancing your economy is one thing that lower level new players really struggle with. And it's really a difficult thing to get your head around. But one way I like to think of it is you kind of got to think about what you're going to want to do in the next few minutes of the game. So Alexander here, you know, he knows that he's going up to the castle age and he wants to boom his economy, or I assume that's what he wants to do. So you're obviously going to need plenty of wood in order to build farms, in order to build new TCs. But you're also going to need a lot of food. When you're booming, you really don't need much gold, so these 4 villagers on gold here don't necessarily have to be there. They could be taking food, and that'll allow him to create more villagers and, you know, not run out of food so quickly when it comes to putting down that 2nd and 3rd TC. So he could redistribute these villas off the gold here. They're not necessary in this situation. The villagers on stone, they are necessary since he needs to get the 200 stone for his two new TCs. But ideally, again, if you can avoid that, that would be preferable. So the first TC going to go down here on the left hand side. That's going to be on the stone and the wood there, and the second TC will go down on the right hand side on the wood line here, and that's, you know, that's fine in my opinion. Having a town centre on the wood is good, and obviously he'll be able to put farms around this as well. Plenty of space for farms. And the Celts are a civilization that do need a lot of food income, since they're going to be making, in most situations, they're going to be making infantry, which is quite intense on the food. Going for Woad Raiders, for instance, would be quite a food-intensive thing, and they generally want quite a big economy to support that. So having lots of farms is really important as the Celts, and so building your town centers where you can fit plenty of farms around them will be ideal. Now, this TC on the left side is not as good for that because, the way he's put this TC down here, it's kind of blocked. As you can see, this blacksmith is blocking the farms going down. This mining camp blocking the farms. There's only about 1 or 2 places he can put a farm down here. And, that's not as ideal. What could have been better in this situation would be to delete this wall at the bottom and put the TC maybe down on the south side of this stone so he could fit farms around it on the south area. And another tip as well, for those of you who might like to play on Arena, deleting your back walls can be really nice because obviously, they're not protecting you from anything. No one's going to be attacking you from the edge of the map. And deleting these walls here can allow you, to think about, I've actually got a little bit more space. He could have avoided building these houses here. If he'd have deleted the wall, he could have put them out here on the left side, giving him more space to build farms. So deleting those walls, certainly worthwhile, and although they might bolster your score a little bit, score doesn't tell the whole story in Age of Empires 2. So right now, his economy is looking reasonable. He's not got a huge surplus of any resource, and that's always a good thing. While you're booming your eco, while you're building up your economy, you don't really want to have a big surplus of any one resource. Ideally, you want to have fairly low resources until you're saving up for something like the Imperial Age. Now I hear a monk, and this is good. Now, obviously, Alexander perhaps watched some pro games, perhaps saw the meta game for the Arena map, and realized that, hey, I should probably take the relics. And, taking the relics is so worth it. 5 relics is the equivalent of 6 villagers gathering gold full time, and that gold is not going to run out. So going for the relics here is definitely a good shout from him, and he's putting that gold to use as well by making a couple of monks. So I think that's a good thing for him to do. Grab the relics, and if you can, if you're playing against an AI by any means, grabbing the relics can certainly give you a little bit of a bolster to your economy, boost your eco a little bit, give you a little bit more gold income. But one thing I would say here is that if you look at those resources right now, you can see a little problem perhaps. You see a very, very low number of food. You see a very high amount of wood, and you see a reasonably high amount of gold and stone, sorry. Now, one of the most important resources in the Castle Age is going to be food. And the reason why his food is so low is because he's spending it. He's spending it very quickly by creating villages at these town centers. Costing 50 food each from 3 villages, you need a total of 150 food income every 25 seconds, which is quite a lot of food. Now, at this stage, getting wheelbarrow perhaps a little bit late, but it's important to get those technologies when you can. Wheelbarrow will really increase the efficiency of your farmers, and so help your food income a lot. Now, it's worth noting that in order to create villages from one town center consistently non-stop, you need 6 farms. So in this situation with 3 TCs, he'll need 6, 12, 18 farms to keep villagers coming out non-stop, and he's got 19. So what you've got to think about is if you need 18 farms just to keep making villages, then you're going to need a few more than that if you want to get your food surplus to 1,000 so that you can click up to the Imperial Age. So we will seed more farms right now, but you've got to keep making those farms, got to keep churning those farms out, and perhaps not focus so much on gold at this point. At this stage, he's got 800 gold and really nothing to spend it on other than the Imperial Age upgrade. He doesn't really have a whole lot of reason to be spending this gold right now, other than the fact that the enemy has got a few Huskarls out, which he has scouted and seen due to his scout cavalry killing one. Now, I've not really played much against the AI before. I don't really know how aggressive this new AI is, but you have to bear in mind that on Arena, your enemy could be doing anything behind these walls. Your enemy might not even have 2 TCs. Your enemy might be on one town center making a ton of army. You just don't know. And in this situation, the AI right here, he's on 2 town centers, and he's actually making quite a few Huskarls. In fact, that's looking kind of scary, if you ask me. So a few Huskarls here coming out from the enemy, but they're certainly not looking like Alexander's in any risk at this point. So right now he's throwing down his 4th town center, and he's got 3 relics collected. He did go out to the right side to collect a couple more, but he won't be successful, sadly. And he's managed to convert a villager as well. But now we'll see a few of these Huskarls coming in. He'll see a lot of these Huskarls coming in, and he'll think to himself, okay, so my enemy's got quite a bit of army here. I should probably do something about it. I'd probably think about that. And so Alexander, at this point, after seeing all of these Huskarls, he should think to himself, okay, I'm going to need to get some kind of defenses up. I'm going to need to get some kind of army out in order to deal with this aggression. Now, there's 2 ways you can deal with aggression. You can build defenses, i.e. build castles, build towers, fortify walls, sit behind your walls until you're ready to attack. Or you can build army and try and counter-attack when they come to you. Now, in this situation, Alexander's gone for fortified walls, so he's not going to have to worry too much about these Huskarls getting through. It's going to take a long while for Huskarls to break this wall down, unless, of course, the Goth player brings in some siege. So Alexander right now, looking at this is economy, and you can see where problems are coming up. He's got a lot of gold, 1,600. That's twice as much as he needs to go to the Imperial Age. He's got 625 stone. He had another 600 a moment ago. He's just throwing down a castle on this left-hand side. And he's got 600 wood, 650 wood. So clearly, at this situation, the economy is not as balanced as it should be. Never underestimate how many farms you may need. And Alexander here just simply doesn't have enough farms. He's got up to 4 TCs now, which means he needs another 6 farms in order to keep villager production going. And that TC, again, is not in a great place to put farms around it, because he's built houses around the north side. So he needs to get more farms out, simply put, and get more food income. At this stage, he could think about perhaps buying a little bit, though I wouldn't recommend buying 1,000 food. That's certainly not ideal, and you're going to get a very bad exchange rate at the market by doing that. So on the left side, he's building this castle. Now, the Celts versus the Goths, right? You have to think about what your opponent's going to do. And the Goths, as we know, are an infantry civilization. Here they come now. They're coming in. The Goths infantry, very, very well known for their infantry. And the Huskarls here, as an infantry unit, going to be countered by, well, the Woad Raider. I mean, the Woad Raiders are going to be really good versus Huskarls. A very good unit to play against the Goths. So, Woad Raiders are going to be great. And Alexander here, look at this. He's got so much gold. He could afford to make Woad Raiders all day, but he doesn't really have the food to create too many Woadies right now. But he will queue some up, and that is a very, very good idea, because he's going to need them, since there's quite a lot of Huskarls here from the AI. They're hammering away on that wall, but he has no reason to be afraid, right? This wall is going to stand the test of time. This wall is incredibly strong. These Huskarls are taking it down incredibly slowly. But Alexander throws up a watchtower here, and I don't think that is a very good idea. And the reason for that is because, you know, Huskarls 8 pierce armor. You have to know the strengths and weaknesses of your enemies, and we know by looking at the Huskarls stats, they have 8 pierce armor. That makes them incredibly strong at dealing with arrows, and a watchtower has just 5 attack. So these Huskarls are only going to take 1 damage per arrow from this tower, which means a total of 60 arrows from this tower to kill 1 Huskarl. What Alexander would be much better off doing here is using these 2 castles, making a bunch of Woad Raiders, and attacking the Huskarls. Now, in this situation, I think what Alexander's going to do is go to the Imperial Age. He's going to click up to the Imperial Age. And the reason why that is not a good idea right now is because he is under immediate threat. Going up to the Imperial Age, you spend a load of resources and you lock them away, and you can't spend those resources on military. It also happens that the Imperial Age upgrade costs food and gold, which are the 2 resources you need to make Woad Raiders, and they are the one thing right now that's going to clean this army up. Or perhaps he feels like his fortified walls are going to keep him safe enough so that going up to the Imperial Age, you know, he can do that comfortably in the time frame. Adding another watchtower, now a guard tower, upgrading to guard tower. And again, these guard towers, even with the upgrade, they're still only going to do 1 damage per arrow. You see here, 51 HP, 50 HP. These guys are not going to help at all. So I think Alexander wasted a little bit of resource there, and perhaps wasn't necessary to do that. Also, I want to just add these castle locations on the left side. Although it's a very good idea to get these castles out, and he did the right thing by building these to make those Woad Raiders, he did put them in a pretty awkward position. First of all, you have to ask yourself the question, when you put a castle down, what is it helping to protect? And in this situation, these castles here, well, they're not really protecting anything. They're not covering any important resources. You know, it would have been better to maybe put a castle right here, so that while the Huskars were attacking the wall, they'd take a lot of damage. It would have been wise to maybe build a castle out on this right side to help protect this gold, and later on claim that. So when you're placing a castle down, always think to yourself, okay, where can I put this castle that is best going to help me get hold of gold, mostly, and protect the resources that I already have. So over on this left side, these castles are not protecting a whole lot, and in come these Huskars with +2 attack and +2 defense. And the thing is here, Alexander's economy is very imbalanced still. He's got 4,000 wood, he's got 3,400 gold, and there's just not enough resources here to be making those Woad Raiders. I'm also questioning if he's actually doing any blacksmith upgrades. I don't see any fletching on these castles, and these Woad Raiders have no upgrades at all. So they're going to get chewed up pretty quickly by the Huskars here. They're going to get taken down very quickly indeed, and Alexander has so much wood and so much gold in the bank. Now imagine if instead of having 5,000 wood, he had 2,000 food. Think about how many more Woad Raiders he could have made with that, and how many more upgrades he could have afforded to get with that. Now it looks like this castle on the north side is doomed to go down, and with that one going down, that's going to really hurt his, his production of Woadies. So the left side, the castle's still working away, still working hard, but the Woad Raiders, well, it's just not going to be enough of them, and without any upgrades as well, they are going to struggle taking these Huskars down. They will need those attack upgrades and those defense upgrades in order to compete. +2/+2 from the Goth player is pretty difficult to deal with. So currently, Alexander's having a pretty hard time. He's gone up to the Imperial Age now though, and with that, maybe he'll be able to do something. Now, when you go up to the next stage, you've got to think, okay, what does the Imperial Age bring to the table? What does the Imperial Age allow me to do? Well, it allows you to unlock stronger units, but at the moment, the Imperial Age for Alexander is not helping him in any way, because he has no units that he can make. He has no castle to produce Woad Raiders or upgrade Woad Raiders from, and he's only just building his first barracks now. So Alexander now, he's going to have to get this, well, he's building these barracks now, he's going to have to upgrade to man-at-arms, he's going to have to upgrade to long swordsman. He's going to take him a while to do those upgrades. Meanwhile, he's got a lot of resources. So I think Alexander's biggest problem here is being able to spend the resources that he's got. And I see that with a lot of lower rated players or newer players to the game. They end up having a huge bank of resources and they're not able to spend them. And I think the main reason why that is because earlier in the game, when Alexander saw all of those Huskars out here on the front, that's when he should have been considering making some military. That's when he should have been getting ready to produce military. He should have had those barracks coming down. He should have perhaps had the castles behind the fortified walls to keep them more protected and keep that, allow them to keep making Woad Raiders. And he should have been maybe thinking about getting upgrades from the blacksmith. He's only just getting forging now, and at this point, it almost is a little too late. One of the things that is really hard to do is make a comeback. When your opponent has a huge army, even if you have the resources to produce a big army, it's really difficult because they are going to be coming at you. They are not going to let you have time to build. They're not going to give you the time to build. And you can already see the AI here bringing in a trebuchet, getting ready to attack that gate. And in this situation, again, like I say, Alexander, he has got plenty of resources in the bank. He's doing these upgrades now. And, you know, there's nothing wrong in this situation with doing long swordsman, two-handed swordsman champion. In fact, it's a very good idea, since you can see his opponent is doing Huskarls, and they are very, you know, quite easily countered by the champion line. So this is good. I mean, he knows clearly that what he needs to do. I think the problem is actually pulling that off and keeping the economy balanced so that he can do that. You know, it's worth noting as well, he's lost a lot of map control here, so he doesn't really see outside of his walls right now. He doesn't know what's going on, you know, far and beyond these walls. And that kind of gives him a big disadvantage. It gives the enemy a big advantage because they can decide where they want to attack, they can decide what they want to do, and they're not feeling the pressure. Alexander is really feeling the pressure right now. The heat is really coming on, and he's got a very small amount of time left before the enemy breaks through these walls and he has to engage. He should be doing more upgrades at the blacksmith. He's in the Imperial Age. He needs to get those upgrades done faster so that he can actually take on his enemy. These Goth Huskarls, they're fully upgraded with +4 attack and +2 defense. The Goths don't get +4 defense. But they don't have Elite Huskarl yet, which is worth noting. He does, however, have champions, and they are also, of course, fully upgraded. And the Goth infantry spam is now coming in. Now, the thing is here, Alexander can defend from this if he'd have been able to spend those resources and actually have his economy balanced around making the military he wanted to make. At this point, imagine if he had, instead of 8,000 wood, he had 8,000 food. 8,000 food and 4,000 gold would allow you to make a hell of a lot of two-handed swordsmen. We're talking about, you know, 150 two-handed swordsmen or champions with that amount of resource. And that would definitely be enough to hold this off. The problem is right now, he's too late, and the enemy is going to break through these walls. He's got better upgrades. He's got a larger army. Champions here with +4, +2 versus Alexander's +2, +0, and the champion upgrade just isn't there. So sadly for Alexander, I think this is going to be it for him. Champion nearly completing right now, but he's backed into a corner. He knows that he can't escape, and there's way too many units here to engage with this. So the enemy's going to overwhelm him. That champion upgrade comes in, but the two-handed swordsmen have all died, and at this stage, King Uric the Visigoth is going to be victorious, it would seem. Now, the Celts should win against the Goths in an even matchup. If you have two players of even skill level on Arena, you know, I feel like the Celts would get the upper hand 9 times out of 10. And the reason for that is because of the Celts' siege and because of their Woad Raiders. They actually are pretty equipped to deal with the with the Goths. Now, I'll talk about that in just a second. We'll get to see the siege workshop going down. The enemy, of course, a huge economy back here, plenty of map control. He's taking all the extra gold spots, he's taking the extra stone, he's got pretty much everything, and I think at this point that's where Alexander resigns. So we identified really the main problem here for Alexander. What he didn't do was balance his economy properly, and he didn't react properly to his enemy's army. I think perhaps he got a little complacent behind these walls, and he felt like he could just sit behind these walls and he'd be fine. However, like I said earlier on, when he saw those Huskarls up here, he saw his opponent was making military, and he should have thought, okay, my enemy's probably going to attack me soon. Now, he may have only seen Huskarls, but his enemy could have been making rams. He could have been preparing to bust those walls. And he did react by doing the fortified wall upgrade, but he didn't have any military ready to deal with the engagement. That was one thing, and obviously we spoke about the balance of the economy earlier on. All of that wood should have been food, and then he could have made much more military units. But, okay, so let's talk about, real quick, before we end this video now, the Celts versus the Goths, right? The Goths are an infantry civilization. We all know that. The Goths are going to be making those Huskarls, they're going to be making those champions, and they're going to be flooding them at you. Now, the Celts are, like I say, very well equipped to deal with that. The Woad Raider is a very strong, unique unit. It will beat the Huskarl. It'll do very well against the champions. And they do have better upgrades as well. They get the +4 defense. And not only that, but they're Scorpions. You've got to remember, the Celts have great siege. They get faster firing siege, and they get Fura Celtica, their unique technology, which gives their siege more HP. So in this situation, if You're faced with the goth onslaught of infantry units. They're coming at you. You're having a hard time. Just remember, Scorpions and Woad Raiders, a fantastic combo to deal with this. Now, sadly, of course, Alexander lost his castles on the left-hand side, and I honestly think that could have been entirely prevented had he started making Woad Raiders, or even made those castles a little earlier, or perhaps even in a better position. He knew he was being attacked on this front wall, and he had room for a castle over here, which would have not only kept his castle safer, because there's a layer of fortified wall protecting it, but it also would have allowed him to have more time to make Woad Raiders and perhaps even push those Huskarls away, because Huskarls in the Castle Age are not that good against castles. Bear in mind they have 8 pierce armor and castles do 11 damage, so they're still going to break through that pierce armor in the Castle Age. So I feel like, Alexander could have won that game with a few small changes to what he did. His early game was pretty good. Obviously, he did miss that boar, which kind of threw him off a little bit. And the lack of farms was really the early game problem there. But hopefully you guys can gain something from this. And if you want to send me your recorded games, please do. You can send them to me via the ZeroEmpires Facebook page. There's a link in the video description. You can send me a message on there and add an attachment to either Dropbox, or you can even send it to me directly, and I'll look at your games and perhaps analyze them and look at where you went wrong and how you could improve. So I hope this has been useful. Let me know in the comment below if you think this is a good thing and if you want me to continue doing stuff like this. Thank you very much to Alexander for sending his recorded game in. I know not everyone wants the times when they've been defeated to be shown to the world, but I think it can be a good learning experience for everyone, so it's much appreciated. And thank you guys for watching. I guess I'll see you all next time.